Welcome to Retire Hour, the weekly show discussing income planning, investing, tax planning, estate planning, and Medicare. Complete retirement education. Hear from our financial advisors, CPA, estate planning attorney, and Medicare advisor every week. This is Retire Hour.
Welcome into Retire Hour, the weekly show that helps you stay up to date on the ever-changing landscape of retirement, and it's still changing. I mean, the headlines and the things that are coming that we see in the news from the White House in Washington just keep on coming. And they don't even sometimes they don't even last a full 24-hour news cycle because there's something even bigger that comes in. And I've been meeting with people here as of lately, and I want to give a shout out to two gentlemen. I won't use their name, but met with just recently two gentlemen that said they listen to us every week when they're on the way to the golf course. And we hope you have some great golfing weather here coming up. But and again, I told them I wouldn't use their names, but I think they will too. Two of those guys out there will know who I'm talking to. But as you guys are out there doing what you do and enjoying retirement, I've had a lot of people come in that I've met with over the past couple of weeks that have said, well, the stock market went straight up that first year with Trump in office in his first term. So the question is on a lot of people's mind is, will the stock market continue to go up or have a good year this next year, just like it did with Trump's first presidency? And I would say the circumstances are not the same for sure. I mean, when we go back to 2017, 2018, our national debt was just $21.5 trillion. Today, it's north of $36 trillion, and they've passed in the House, at least extending the debt ceiling up another $4 trillion, and they've started the process in the House this week to extend those tax cuts, and the spending has just become so unsustainable, and that's why they're looking for cuts. But if this tax bill that they just passed in the House or started the process, again, they haven't passed the bill, they've started the process formally with Tuesday night, this is going to add to the deficit. And the deficit is what's driving inflation. And so some people are even now starting to worry about stagflation, where you get things that become more expensive, but earnings go flat. Maybe wages go flat, where you're not really moving forward, but again, inflation keeps going forward. And that's a big risk for people. And getting back to the circumstances are not the same. We have vastly different things going on in our world, let alone all the debt and money we've printed to get through COVID and the pandemic and the quote-unquote Inflation Reduction Act that probably wasn't too much geared towards reducing inflation. But the country's budget is in need of major surgery. And I don't know if any of you guys out there listening or watching have ever had major surgery, but think of the country's budget like almost needing a quadruple bypass. And if any of you had this quadruple bypass or this major surgery, you know that that's not something you just do in 30 seconds and bounce back the next day and you're 100% back to normal. You can't just do that overnight. This is a major, major thing. And the point I'm getting at here is if we're going to have major surgery as a country, yes, I'm optimistic in the American economy over the long term. But what I feel, and a lot of people that come in and talk to us are sharing with me, I feel is you guys out there that are nearing retirement or maybe in retirement, you can't take all these wild swings that may be coming at us over the next 12 to 18 months. Or would you even want to risk having those wild swings that could happen and be a result as of the waste or maybe fraud that they find, or they're just trying to cut out the expenses and slim down how much the government's spending? This is going to have a big impact on you. And if you don't have either a strategy or a plan, and your plan is just to keep going along with the status quo, I would argue with you, you need to maybe take a look at some things, because the status quo is out the window, and they might be throwing the baby out with the bathwater, I think is the phrase, but you need to make sure you're prepared for any uncertainty that could be coming your way. And if you don't have a plan and you're concerned, or you're maybe even starting to worry about all the uncertainty that's going on in the economy right now, or tariffs and taxes and the deficit and all the different things that can have an impact on your nest egg or your success of your nest egg in your retirement, reach out and just schedule a 15-minute phone call with us. And you can do that by doing 833-MAG-REPORT. That phone number again is 833, the letters M-A-G, report. I had several calls last week. A gal, she actually called me on her lunch break or we scheduled the call over her lunch break. It's about noon, and talked with Diana and Kenneth. They were a great couple, and they had just moved here from Texas, And they're saying, they need to get this all buttoned up because they've been too busy earning and saving for retirement. But as they're nearing retirement, they need to have a plan, and they don't want to subject their nest egg to maybe wild 30 or 40, maybe even 50% swings that can happen in the market if volatility kicks in. And if you're concerned that you don't have a strategy and you just want to have a 15-minute phone call just to see if you could benefit from going through our full process, again, that number is 833 MAG Report. 833, the letters MAG stands for Market Advisory Group Report, or you can go over to our website at retirehour.com. Well, stay tuned. We're going to be right back with Julie Newton coming from our Kansas City offices. We'll be talking about Rand McNally. What's that? Stay tuned. Welcome back into Retire Hour, the weekly show that helps you stay up to date on the ever-changing landscape of retirement, and it's going to be changing quickly. We talked last week about how they're trying to overhaul Social Security and find fraud, waste, and abuse there. Trump wants to eliminate the Social Security tax. That's going to have its own ramifications. You have to understand this, whether you like him or not, whether you voted for him or you didn't, he is now driving the ship, and you need to make sure that you're staying up to date on all these things that can impact you in retirement. And I was mentioning earlier stagflation. We're going to go up and talk with Julie Newton in Kansas City. Julie, you have a story that involves, I think you mean roadmap, like Rand McNally, and stagflation and market uncertainty. Share with us what's on your mind this week, Julie.
Well, okay. So for everyone out there who doesn't know what a Rand McNally is, which perhaps our control room may not, a Rand McNally, it is a map. It is the map. I remember as a kid, my dad was a railroader. And if you know anything about railroading, it used to be that you got bumped randomly. Somebody needed a different job and you got bumped out of yours if they had more seniority. So he always kept a Rand McNally, a map, in his car so that if he got bumped, he knew how to get where he was going. He had a map to get there. We always kept one in the house. And as a kid, I would sit through and I would plan all of these destinations, all of these things that I was going to do when I was an adult, and they finally gave me a driver's license. So, for years until, cell phones, I kept a Rand McNally in my car, and I got that driver's license, and I was free to go explore, and I used that. But the key is, and I talk to people about this all the time, you don't just jump in the car and take off without your Rand McNally, or these days, your GPS on your phone, okay? If you're going to go somewhere you've never been before, you take your roadmap, because if you don't, you might head for the ocean and end up in landlocked Nebraska or something like that. So you don't know, and you've got to have that roadmap. And so many people I've talked to lately are really nervous. As you said earlier, Matt, we've got this conversation about stagflation now. We've got a market that everybody expected it would just take off and grow this year, and it's been kind of volatile. We've lost some ground and people are nervous. I have a client who, when he became my client, was planning to retire end of 24. He kicked the can down the road end of 25. Now I spoke to him earlier this week. He's looking at mid 26. People are nervous because they're being told you got to wait till the market recovers. Well, when's that going to happen?
Yeah, you're not in control of what's going on in the market when you decide to retire. And I think that's probably a big fear of people, that they might have to put off their retirement date. And some people don't care, and they just like, damn the torpedoes, we're going to retire anyways. But
right.
If you're looking at it from a planning standpoint, you don't want to have a 30-40% drop in the first year of your retirement. That can have lasting ripple effects throughout your retirement.
Exactly. In fact, I had a lady put it very eloquently. She said, I don't want to end up living in some stranger's basement. That big fear is, I don't want to run out of money. What's going to happen if I run out of money? I'm going to be what's my living situation going to be? And so they're very real fears, because you go from having this regular income that you're eligible for raises and bonuses and those kinds of things. And now all of a sudden, you've got this pot of money you have to live on. If you take that 30% hit to that, what's your retirement going to look like? And so People are just exhausted from all of the turmoil, Fed rates, inflation, market volatility, and now we're throwing that stagflation, which most people remember from the 70s. We're throwing that big word out there again. People are exhausted and they're panicking and they don't know what to do. So, Rand McNally, get your roadmap. Like you said, once you closed out that segment, you've got to have a plan in place. And that Rand McNally is your plan. You can sit there and map out your retirement and protect your nest egg and not have to worry about how am I going to get from point A to point B.
Yeah, and it's really about all having that plan. You said it, and the probably the generation that's listening to this show knows what a Rand McNally is, and there might be some out there that don't know what that is. But those maps are so important, and sometimes you use that map to not only figure out where you're at, but also to figure out where you're going. And whether it's the healthcare aspect with Medicare, whether it's the estate planning questions that come up so often, whether it's the Social Security questions, whether it's the tax planning questions, these are all important questions to have answers to before people make those decisions. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, definitely. You need to have an idea how all of those things are going to impact your income because again, it could be the difference between running out of money in retirement and not running out of money in retirement. It can be as simple as that. So get that roadmap, know where you are today, know how you're going to get through there, have it mapped out, talk with those professionals, make sure you have all of your little ducks in a row so that you don't have to stress over what all's going on in Washington or, locally what's going on, whether it's, decreasing no more tax on your groceries or not. You have to be able to know you're comfortably in that place where your retirement is going to look the way you want it instead of being dictated by whatever some politician does. And you have to be in control.
And you and I are well aware of there are strategies that can help people be buffered if the market pulls back on the downside, but also if the thing takes off like a rocket, there's still a lot of upside potential there for people as well. But it's all about controlling or limiting that volatility, because as you retire, you're not putting money into that retirement account anymore. That's all you got. So you need it to grow, but you certainly don't want to lose it, or maybe even have it be cut in half down to 40 or 50% if the market pulls back in a big way. But then at the same time, if the S&P 500 is up over 100% over the past 5-6 years, and that's some great growth. But you don't want to make yourself so conservative where you miss out on that upside when it's there, but you're not in control of what's going to happen to the market when you retire. You have to be prepared for both scenarios.
Definitely. And that's something that I had a conversation with someone just a couple of weeks ago, that fear factor of pulling it all out, putting it in cash or precious metals like gold or something like that. I mean, that is a very real reaction that people are having. But like you said, you cannot be in control of that market. And what if, for example, the gold market were to drop 30% and you just put your IRA in that gold market? How are you going to recover that? When are you going to recover that? There's ways to protect that so that you don't have to worry about it. But then you need to be able to get that growth when the market does take off. So it's not a matter of, let's pull everything out and put it in cash or precious metals. Let's think about what conservative investment I can use, what growth investment I can use. So I have a combination of the two. So I'm taking advantage of both worlds. So when that economy takes off, when that market takes off, I'm prepared for it. And I've still got my little protected nest egg for the next blip, but at least I'm able to take advantage of that growth.
I hate to be so cliche, but it sounds like you're saying it's possible if you have a plan to have your cake and eat it too.
Yep. Get the Rand McNally.
But it's your Rand McNally. I don't know that I want to eat a map. So if you guys are out there listening and thinking to yourself, man, I am frustrated. I am anxious on what's going on in the world and the economy. And no, I could not probably stand to retire very soon if I had a big drop or loss in my nest egg or portfolio. Reach out and have a 15-minute conversation and see if there's anything you can do about that. You can do that by dialing 833-MAG-REPORT or 833, the letters MAG for Market Advisory Group Report. Or you can go over to our website at retirehour.com or marketadvisorygroup.com. Well, stay tuned. We'll be right back with Danny Goolsby talking about the science of retirement. Stay tuned. Welcome back into Retire Hour, the weekly show that helps you stay up to date on the ever-changing landscape that is retirement, and it's changing fast. I mean, like I said in the previous segment, we talked about last week how they're wanting to eliminate the taxation on Social Security. That's going to have ripple effects. I mean, I hate that tax. Don't get me wrong. I'm looking forward to it if they get rid of that tax. I just can't make the math work. But again, maybe there's smarter people than me working on that. I hope so. But if they're wanting to eliminate that, it's going to cause a shortfall. That's going to have repercussions with the retirement. Tariffs, talking about this week in the House starting the budget process and trying to extend the tax cuts, that's going to have an impact on your retirement. There's a lot to retirement, and maybe that's why we've got Danny Goolsby here this week to talk about the science of retirement. You have a story to share with us this week?
Yeah, I've run into several people recently that have reminded me of we talk about as financial advisors a lot and a holistic planning firm, whether it be tax or estate planning or Medicare. We talk a lot about the minutia, if you will, of planning. And that planning, for example, from a financial standpoint, how much risk are you taking from an asset allocation? Are you invested in bonds or fixed income, or are you invested in equities or stocks, or are you in precious metals or crypto or whatever you're in, real estate? What are you in, and how does that match up? And you look at about what kind of investment returns are you getting, and then how are you situated from a standpoint of is your retirement, is it pre-tax, is it post-tax? Do you think taxes are going up? Just on and on and on with what I call the minutia of the different spider webs that you could start going down the rabbit hole, if you will, of trying to do some planning for retirement. And where do you start and where do you stop at? It can be. I've had a lot of people recently tell me, I didn't realize it was going to be this complex. I thought just one day I could
flip a
stop
switch
working.
And boom, I'm retired.
Yeah, and
there's a lot to it.
My grandfather told my dad in the early 1950s, he said, son, if you go to work for a company that provides you a pension, and when you retire from that company, son, this is my grandfather talking to my father in the 50s, he said that once you get your pension and once you get Social Security, you'll be on easy street. You'll have enough money. And the goal for my father, from my grandfather in the early 1950s is if you can get $500 a month of income, then you'll have enough to pay all your bills and have money left over to do whatever you want to do. Well, we know that you can't hardly buy a tank of gas for $500 now.
It seems like it.
But back to the science of retirement. There's a subsection of science that when it deals with finances called behavioral economics, and behavioral economics gets into not just the minutia of retirement planning and all the different subsets, whether it's again healthcare, long-term care planning, tax planning, as I said just a moment ago, all the different spider webs that these things can go down. But behavioral economics gets into there was a story I was reading that says one of the hallmarks of behavioral economics is the belief that people make better decisions when they have the right information at the right time and when they can get prompt feedback. So this author went on to say, he said, a concept that ties in nicely with Plato's words of wisdom from his writings says, a good decision is based on knowledge and not on numbers. So if you think about that, well, as financial advisors, we're all about the numbers. I mean, we pull in CPAs into our meetings, and we pull estate planning attorneys into our meetings, and they're all talking about numbers and planning techniques. Behavioral economics, though, talks about the person as a whole. So if you think about someone who's been working their adult life to that point, they've been working approximately 40 years in the workforce, and they've been doing life a certain way. And all of a sudden, now they're on the cusp of exiting their workforce, and they have all the dominoes have lined up. They have all of the money in their retirement plan. They have they have their tax planning piece in place. They have their HSAs in place. They know where their health care is going to come from. They may have their long-term care plan in place, if you will. They have all these things. They're going to ride off into the sunset. And then lo and behold, one day they retire. And so I had a client one time, he was a president of a large corporation, and he was in this process right here. And he said on Friday afternoon, I had a big desk in my office, and I could push a button on any one on my desk, and I could have a battery of people come into my office, and they could fulfill whatever wish I wanted them to do. On Monday, nobody knew who I was after I had retired, and it was a very sobering thing. Well, as I said at the start of my comments here today, I've run into several people here, and so just been a reminder of how much of a emotional thing that retirement is. And so we as planners, we want to talk about the numbers, but we also want to be sensitive to the side of, one writer said one time, he said, it's not about your retiring, it's about rewiring. What are you going to do with the rest of your life? You've been routinely getting up and going to work, and you've been doing all the things that are associated with work. A lot of people have their identities wrapped up in their job. That's who they are. They have their social network is around the people that they work with. All of their plans are surrounded with where they work. And now they're faced with maybe stepping away, and they don't know who they are when they retire, or it is a big change. I had a client that said, Danny, I love to golf, and
Did you want a monologue this week?
well, I was just following you.
Okay. I think you're hitting a good point here. The fact is that there is so many things people need to be asking before they retire. And the fact is that they do have all these questions that they need answers to, the healthcare aspects, the tax, the estate planning. And if they're not getting those answers, how do they know they're making the best informed decision for them?
Well, that's the part that we play. The part we also can play is where are you going to spend the rest of your retirement life? What's that look like? And some people will say the really trivial answers or the quick answers. Well, I'm going to travel, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to play golf, or I'm going to do that. And those are all worthwhile things, and they can drive you for a while. But where I'm going with the behavioral economics of this is that you need to have something that's going to be driving you. You need to have a purpose after you retire, whether that's family, whether that's whatever that's important to you.
Well, if it's just me watching my soaps on my recliner.
Those game shows, those can be good, man, but they only going to last you for so long.
That's so true. It gives you purpose, or helps to have purpose in retirement. But if you're worried about maybe the security of retirement, or even the uncertainty, like I was talking about earlier, that can go along with retirement right now, because the world is changing, reach out and give us a call at 833-MAG-REPORT. Or that's 833, the letters MAG for Market Advisory Group Report. Or you can go to our website at retirehour.com. We can schedule that there as well. Had several calls over the past couple of weeks here. Love listening to you guys and talking with you guys that listen to the show every week. And we want to make sure you're getting the valuable answers to your questions as they arise, or sometimes even before they can cost you a lot of money in costly retirement mistakes. Well, stay tuned. After the break, we'll be talking with Taylor Bevan, one of our Medicare advisors. And coming up after that, we'll be talking with one of our estate planning attorneys, Gerald Eidelman, talking about if you have a trust. There's oftentimes people that have these trusts out there that are not reporting them correctly. And trust accounting is a very, very important thing. And then, of course, we'll be rounding out the show with Joshua Sikora talking about the 6,500 IRS agents that were let go. And could that prolong your refund? Stay tuned. Welcome back into Retire Hour, the weekly show that helps you stay up to date on the ever-changing landscape that is retirement. Healthcare is such a own can of worms when it comes to Medicare, Medicaid, and then also the prescription drug plans that have to go along with sometimes your Medicare coverage if you get a supplement, or sometimes people want to go Medicare Advantage. But Taylor Bevan's here to talk to us about something that's not really Medicare related, but it is health insurance related. HSAs, health savings accounts.
Yeah.
Tell us what's going on with health savings accounts.
So a lot of people don't correlate Medicare with health savings accounts because once you're on Medicare, you can't contribute to those accounts anymore. But that doesn't mean that you lose everything that you had in that account. And so sometimes people like to refer to HSAs as the Roth of health plans.
Oh, okay.
Because the money that goes in what it earns is tax free, and when you take it out, as long as you use it on medical expenses,
Qualified
it's
medical expenses.
qualified medical expenses.
Joshua beat that into me one time. Sorry.
Yes, qualified medical expenses, it will still be tax free to you. And so we just have to be careful when we are moving to Medicare, that we follow those guidelines to not mess up or cause any extra heartache or tax on that HSA.
So if someone's getting ready to go on to Medicare, I know that there's something they need to do with their HSA, right? And they don't need to do it the day before they go on Medicare. There's some things, there's some time, there's some runway there is what I'm getting at. Talk about that runway that you need to be, if you are contributing to a health savings account, that if you do transition to Medicare, you need to make sure you're stopping your contributions, right?
Right. And so there are some people who will continue to work past
They're
65,
yeah.
but still go to Medicare. And so you have to be careful that that employer stops any HSA contributions for you before we start your Part A and Part B, because there could be a 6% penalty on any amount put into that account once we have Medicare activated.
And is it 6 months? Is 6 months the time frame? I think is what Joshua told me one time, that you need to you stop those contributions to your HSA before you enroll in Medicare.
Right. So we want to make sure that we have at least 6 months before the Part A, Part B start effective date.
Okay. So that sometimes people aren't maybe in control of that. Maybe they get laid off or they get fired and they're not having that runway, and there can be some unwinding there that needs to be done. But if they're on Medicare, what can they use their HSAs for? Any qualified medical expense?
Yeah. I mean, just because we are already on Medicare doesn't mean that there might not be any costs at all. And so, that supplement deductible on your Plan G, we can use the HSA for.
Oh, cool.
If you're on the Advantage, you have co-payments, we can use that HSA for. There are prescriptions and certain like contacts or glasses and certain medical supplies and stuff like that, that you can still use those funds for.
So this is really a way for people to maximize, like you said, it's the kind of the Roth of the health plans, so you speak. You get a tax deduction when you're putting money into a health savings account. You have to be on a high deductible plan.
Yep.
And the only reason I know all this is because I'm doing this.
Yeah.
But this is something that I've observed from successful people that have $1 million, $2 million plus in their retirement accounts or assets. They have 10, 15, sometimes even more than that in these health savings accounts, because they've built it up over time. And sometimes these health savings account, you can actually pick investments so it can grow there too.
Yep.
And you said you don't owe the taxes on it. This is a great strategy for helping you have money set aside for health expenses, but then not to mention maximizing the tax benefits of it.
Correct. Yeah. And I mean, so a lot of people are like, well, what if I don't have a lot of medical expenses? What happens, if I need that money for something else? After 65, you can take that money out of your HSA and use it for something.
Well, your voice goes up there. Why does your voice go up there? Is there a catch?
There is a slight catch. So taking money out before 65, you'll have tax on that money and a 10% penalty. After 65, we'll still have to pay taxes on that money, but we don't have to worry about the 10% penalty anymore. So if there is something that comes up where you're like, shoot, I really need this money, but it's not for medical, as long as you are able to pay the tax on it, you could potentially take it out and use it for something else after the age of 65.
Now, if you're in a higher tax bracket, that might not be the most
Right.
most
It is
advantageous
going to
way
be
to
at
use it.
your effective tax rate. So like I said, it's if you absolutely needed to, there is that option. Is it necessarily a good option? No, but at least you don't have to worry about that 10% penalty.
But I'm a Kansas boy, and I'm tell you some of the expenses I use my HSA with is when we get these allergies that we're getting ready to go through here, which I'm fine. It's a great trade-off to get out of all this cold, yucky weather. But when we're in Kansas here and we've got these allergies, I use my HSA to go buy decongestant at the pharmacy, and that's a covered expense. And it's just a wiser use of my dollars because I can put that money into that account and it's a tax deduction. It doesn't hit my income taxes, but then it helps me maximize those dollars in a tax efficient way. Because if I'm in a high tax bracket, the after tax dollars of that, I'd have to gross that up by almost 30-40% between Kansas and federal, right?
Yeah.
And so these HSAs are great tools to save for retirement. Now, if people are already retired, they can't put money into an HSA, right?
No.
So that's kind of the downside. If you're working out there, or who would you describe as maybe the ideal person to be saving in an HSA?
So anybody that is currently employed, that has working wages, and is, any age starting, in your late 20s can start adding to this account. I mean, we don't have to wait until we are in our 40s to plan for our future and stuff like that. And even if you go past 65, you don't start your Part A, and you still are, working and have insurance through an employer, you can still contribute, but we have to be careful about that 6-month time frame if that is the road that you're going to take. So there's a wide range of age that we have to contribute to an HSA and build that nest egg up.
And you heard it there from Taylor Bevan. HSAs are a great tool to maximize tax savings for you, but you have to be on that high deductible plan. But this is the kind of advice that working together as a team, that before I was a financial advisor before we started this group. I had no idea of all this other stuff. And it was in some ways doing a disservice to the people I was helping, not having these resources to pull them in and get answers to these questions or figure out how to maximize your money and make it work for you. And if you don't have a team that's helping you, reach out and give us a call at 833-MAG-REPORT. Or again, that phone number is 833, the letters MAG for Market Advisory Group Report. Or you can hop on over to that website at retirehour.com. Well, stay tuned. We'll be right back with Gerald Eidelman talking about trust accounting. And if you have a trust or you're the trustee of a trust, you won't want to miss this. Stay tuned. Welcome back into Retire Hour, the weekly show that helps you stay up to date on the ever-changing landscape of retirement. And we were just talking with Taylor Bevan there beforehand, and then Danny before that, how working together as this team, it really takes a lot of the pressure off the people we help, because I feel the retirement system in America is broken. You as the retiree have to go to your tax person to get answers to your tax questions. Sometimes you have to go out and talk with a Medicare or healthcare professional to get answers to those questions. And then if you bring all that back together, maybe to your financial advisor or your tax person, again, it puts you in the middle, and there's a lot of room for either misinformation or left out information. And working together all under this one roof is exactly what Gerald Eidelman and I are going to talk about this week. You, I, and the tax department, we were all in a meeting the other day, and when people have trusts, or they're a trustee of a trust, that maybe their mom and dad have left them something in these assets, but the assets stay in the trust.
Right.
Not only does sometimes the trust have to do a tax return, and that's
Correct.
It's its own thing, but that's the tax department. But then it's also kind of your department, because you're helping with the trust and helping the beneficiaries with all this. But sometimes there's some accounting that needs to be done with that.
Absolutely. I mean, what people don't understand is that as a trustee, beyond the duties that you have to follow the trust, there's also certain duties you have under law by statute. One of those things is you have to account for the funds of the trust very carefully over the year, and you have to submit a report to all the beneficiaries. So if you're carrying all this money in, you better be able to show the beneficiaries at the end of the year where the money went, how did it go. A lot of people can't do that. A lot of people will be running trust as something that they do on the side, that they do it, in between, going to sleep and, right. It's, they don't dedicate the time necessarily to be watching everything. And as a result, when it comes time to, the chips count down and somebody wants to get an accounting, then they're scrambling. Then there's suspicions from the other beneficiaries, and you're in a heap of trouble.
And there might not even be anything bad going on there.
No, no, no.
But if it's the fact that if you don't have your ducks in a row, and if you're not having this accounting held, and trust can be simple, trust can be complex.
Correct.
And if they're holding on to assets, there's normally a reason. Either it's to protect a kid, to protect it from either being lost in a lawsuit, sometimes to protect it from the nursing home. There's a lot of different reasons for that.
Correct.
But if you're having these assets held back there and the income's being distributed, there's moving pieces in there.
That's right. That's right. And don't forget, it's not just moving pieces as far as the money's going out, but there's also money coming in because the money should be invested.
Yeah, whether it's in real estate or stocks and generating some kind of income.
As a trustee, you have an obligation to be a prudent investor and not let the money sit in a bank earning no money. So guess what? Now you have to know how to manage finances. All of these things are difficult for the average individual. One of the biggest problems my clients have sometimes is they want their children, or they kind of vacillate between going through a professional trustee who would have all these systems in place, that would have financial department to invest, they would have a tax department to do all their taxes. But they don't want to pay the high fees that most of these trust companies charge, which are really ridiculous.
That's a very expensive fee. You and I've talked about trying to figure out how to get around that. We're working on that.
Right.
One day.
Or the other part is that you don't want to leave everything up to a trustee that doesn't know your family, doesn't understand your dynamics, and is going to be making decisions about what happens to your children and your grandchildren without any more information than what's on the paper. It is at that point, that they might have children who they could appoint because they trust them, but they might feel lack of confidence in their ability to manage the trust. And that's where we come in. We can come in and be the backup for the trustee. We, as a group, have all of the resources that a trust company would have without being a trust company. We have market advisory group who can direct in investments. We have market tax services who can do the accounting, provide tax returns. And we have Eidelman Law Firm who can provide the legal information that you need in order to be able to understand what you're trying to do as a trustee.
And if it's not all together, it's up to the trustee to go to all those different professionals separately.
That's right.
And that wastes a lot of time, makes room for errors. And this is what I'm getting at. And not just in the trust planning department, but in retirement in general. The retirement system is broken in America because you have all of these different professionals where they have their own compliance officers saying, Matt, you better not give tax advice. Matt, you better not give estate planning advice. Matt, you better not. But it leaves me wanting to help the people that are working with us.
That's right.
Because they need those helps. And it falls on their shoulders if we don't help them.
And it happens the same thing to me. People come to me for advice relating to, okay, I'm a trustee now. What do I do? And there's all this money sitting around. And there's different tax consequences of how you treat that money. I'll give you an example. I mean, we had a trustee who he didn't consult with me at all. I mean, we represented him in some legal matters, but he didn't consult with us as to what steps should we take. So part of the trust that was left over had a significant portion of retirement accounts.
Uh-oh.
Exactly. So the smart thing to do, because it would have been to pass on the retirement accounts onto the beneficiaries, let them take their stretch distribution
Over the 10 years.
And maybe save a lot in taxes. He didn't do that. He cashed them all out because he thought he was supposed to gather all the money. So at the end of the day, in the first year of the trust, there's this huge tax bill that has to be paid by the trust. And had he come and talked to me in the first place, we would have been able to detect that and say, wait a minute, let's bring in market tax services, the CPA, the advisors. They can tell us when is the best time to move this money. How do you move it? These are all things that we can work in the same room, if you would,
Yeah, same
at
table.
the same time.
Yeah.
And most trusts allow the trustee to hire professional services to help them.
And the trust will pay for those expenses.
Right.
Yeah.
And, sometimes it's overwhelming if you have to hire a lawyer, an accountant, and, a financial advisor. The ability of us to be able to do this all in one place and give that trustee sort of relief that they're doing their job and they're not violating the rules.
And guys, if you're listening out there and you're thinking, man, sounds like that guy cost him probably thousands of dollars and probably needless taxes doing it that way. And if you're worried you don't have someone that you can reach out to, again, just have a 15-minute chat with us by phone. And you can do that by calling 833-MAG-REPORT. Or that phone number again is 833, the letters MAG for Market Advisory Group Report. Or you can go on over to our website at retirehour.com. Well, stay tuned. You're going to hear Joshua Sikora try and make me feel sorry for the fact that 6,000 plus IRS agents got let go off the job. We'll be interested in hearing that conversation. Stay tuned. Welcome back into Retire Hour, the weekly show that helps you stay up to date on the ever-changing landscape that is retirement. I'm your host, Matt Goolsby. We've got Joshua Sikora in here, and I don't want to be glib. I don't want to be smug or I don't want to be negative. Put it that way. I'm not happy that anyone lost their job, but I don't know a lot of people that would be very sympathetic to the fact that the IRS is having to let go of this many people. Ooh, boo-hoo. I mean, I've heard that from some people, but
right.
But there's going to be ripple effects. This is what I was talking about at the start of the show.
Right. So first of all, remember that these people are just doing the job that Congress authorized them to do. But this isn't about, feel terrible for these people more so than we feel bad for anybody else who happens to lose their job. The point here is what's going to happen next, right? There's 6,500 people. That's a big chunk of people taken out of the IRS. A lot of people, this is a question we've gotten from a lot of people I've been meeting with right now, because for some reason I meet with a lot of people right now, right?
You are a little busy right now, I've noticed.
I don't know why.
Time of the year, I guess.
I guess. And so the first question people say is, fantastic, whatever, which, okay. Then the very next thing out of their mouth is,
where's my refund?
What about my refund?
Yeah.
And so the good news here is that for the most part, this ought not impact people getting their refunds. That process is pretty automated through the ancient computers the IRS has.
They still have the paper that has the perforated edges, the track paper. What is it called?
On those old dot matrix printers, the self-feeding paper.
Yeah,
quite possibly. I always picture banks of these machines, with that reel-to-reel tape. Yeah, yep. People are going to feel this when there's a problem. Mm-hmm. If you get some kind of letter because the 7 people that are left of the IRS
7, wow. Okay,
misunderstood something, the computers didn't interpret something correctly, and there's a problem that now has to be solved, that is where you're going to feel the problem, because a lot of these people were customer service representatives. So when you call, the people you talk to, a lot of them are these people who lost their jobs. So now you're going to be waiting on hold even longer. Or you're going to find people who are demoralized because a bunch of their coworkers left, and so they're probably less motivated to help. This is where people often find comfort in having someone that they can work with as an advocate on their behalf in dealing with the IRS.
And that's where you guys come in.
That's where we come in.
But this is kind of perfectly putting in a bow what I started the show with. There's going to be ramifications as they retool the government. Yep. And long story short, that's what they're doing. They're retooling. They're going to downsize. They're going to cut spending. They're going to lay off people. Mm-hmm. Now, I think there's a lot of people out there that are optimistic of what's going to happen in the economy now that a Republican and controlled House and White House and Senate, all those are in place. But it's going to have ramifications in the short term. And I think the analogy I was using earlier was quadruple bypass surgery.
Yeah.
If you have this surgery, it's not just something you bounce back overnight or it's done in 30 seconds. And we're just starting to see the beginning of this.
Right. I mean, think about if you have some kind of massive surgery like that, you're out of commission for weeks, if not months. And given that this is not just one person, but now we're talking about 360 million Americans who are all involved in this, it's going to take a little while to get through the short-term pain to see if there's long-term benefits.
Very eloquently put there. We're going to see if there's long-term benefits.
Right.
But you don't know.
There's so many factors involved that are outside of anybody's control that who knows how this is going to pan out.
And as I was talking in the first part of the show, if you don't have a plan that can either be defensive when the market's going south or you can take off when the market's going north, you're subject to all the volatility. And when you're retired, that's not probably a volatility you want to handle.
No. And okay, take that plus the estate issues, plus the tax issues, plus the health insurance. You don't want to retire and pick up a part-time job.
And this is just getting started. And we're talking with a lot of people out there that are worried and concerned. And if you guys have any anxiety or if you're frustrated, reach out and give us a call at 833-MAG-REPORT. Or again, that phone number is 833. The letters MAG stands for Market Advisory Group Report. We'd love to have that chat with you and see if you could actually benefit from going through our full-blown process, or maybe you just have a couple of questions you need to get answered. Well, that's all the time we have this week. Thanks for tuning in to Retire Hour. Don't forget to check out Joshua's new show on retirementhelp.com, Taxes and Tacos.
Taxes and Tacos.
Where you guys eat tacos and talk about taxes. We'll see you next week.
Unless otherwise indicated, all client names have been changed to protect their identities. Investment advisory services are offered through Foundations Investment Advisors LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The content provided is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The views, statements, and opinions expressed herein are those of the individual speakers and not necessarily those of Foundations and its affiliates. The information contained herein does not constitute an offer to sell any securities or represent an express or implied opinion or endorsement of any specific investment opportunity, offering, or issuer. Any discussion of performance or returns are not indicative of future results. Each individual investor situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Foundations only transacts business in the states where it is registered or excluded or exempt from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by security regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. No legal or tax advice is provided. Always consult with a tax professional. Legal services are offered by Edelman Law Firm. Tax services offered by Market Tax Services. Market Advisory Group does not provide legal or tax advice. Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not in any way refer to investment advisory products. Rates and guarantees provided by insurance products and annuities are subject to the financial strength of the issuing insurance company, not guaranteed by any bank or the FDIC. The guest commentators featured in this show are not investment advisor representatives of Foundations and do not provide advisory services. Market Advisory Group does have several investment advisor representatives that can provide such services. This is not endorsed or affiliated with any U.S. government agency, the Social Security Administration, or associated with any federal Medicare program. We do not offer every plan available in your area. Any information we provide is limited to those plans we do offer in your area. Please contact Medicare.gov or 1-800-MEDICARE to get information on all of your options. A Roth conversion may not be suitable for your situation. The primary goal in converting retirement assets into a Roth IRA is to reduce the future tax liability on the distributions you take in retirement or on the distributions of your beneficiaries. The information provided is to help you determine whether or not a Roth IRA conversion may be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Please review your retirement savings, tax, and legacy planning strategies with your legal/tax advisor to be sure a Roth IRA conversion fits into your planning strategies. All rights reserved.